then you end up English.
Here we go. Hey everyone, hello and welcome to Tales from the Tavern. I'm Gamer Mom Luna. No, I'm not. I'm Scott, YottsTwitch. I'll be sitting in for Luna tonight, so set your expectations accordingly. Tales from the Tavern, where we bring in folks from our respective communities and we chat about tabletop RPGs and generally nerdy things. So strap in if you have any questions. We'd love to have them from the community there in chat. Someone will be watching chat. I don't know if I will, but someone will be. And then they'll DM me messages and it will be great. I'd love to hear from you guys though. So without further ado, let's get into it and let's meet our cast. So, folks, I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself. You can give your name, where people can find you, your passions in life, your social security number, whatever you want, really.
Should I grab my credit cards?
Joke's on you, I don't have
if you
one.
Could just hold up your credit card, it'd be great. So let's see. Let's start out with Anna.
Hi guys, I'm Anna, also known as Sanctumcosplays. I am a social work grad student by day, cosplayer, special effects makeup artist, and TTRPG player by night, I guess. You can find me over on the Nerd League Gaming channel on Twitch, where I play my strength monk Alona, as well as Madeline Chapman Smythe, the Queen in Monster Hearts 2, and will soon be game mastering our new Masks a New Generation game, Hero Complex.
Very cool. Ooh, I have a bunch of questions for you already. Okay.
Oh no.
I have to contain myself. Let's go. Next one down the list. Plot Hooks. Tell us a little bit about yourself, my friend. Your name is Samuel, correct? Sorry,
yes.
I did this before. I'm going to do it again. Samuel, sir. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. I'm Samuel. I'm the host and the creator of the PlotHooksPodcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at PlotHooks. We're a weekly podcast about storytelling in Dungeons & Dragons and other TTRPGs. Just wanted to learn a lot ourselves and just learn with our community about just crafting the best narratives we can in our games. We also release a lot of homebrew content on our Patreon, which is also, you can find us there on Patreon/PlotHooks. We just released a new supplement of a homebrew race called the Ichma set. And we are just excited to keep making content and telling great stories.
That's fantastic, man. Thank you for that. Let's see. Moving along, we have the one, the only, the biggest band fan ever, Primus. Aaron, tell us a bit about yourself, my friend.
Hello, my name is Aaron, known as Twitter CL_Primus. I play Kalbus, the Hexblade Paladin on the Chaotic Neutrals podcast. Please check us out if you have time. If not, that's fine too, because we're all cool people here.
Get in there and subscribe to that podcast right now is what I'm sorry to cut you off, but everyone go subscribe to his podcast, please.
But I'm all things nerd, League of Legends, video games, pretty much that whole sphere. I have a long list of podcasts I'm trying to get caught up on. It never stops. I've only gotten through about 4 of them so far, so you know.
Who is your League main, if I may ask?
Thresh.
Okay.
I'm a support main.
Oh, I think we've already divided the audience. We're losing viewers as we speak.
It's okay. I'll go hide in this corner. She can be in the other corner. We'll all be fine.
You're fine, man. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you a little bit more. ShadowDM next. Shadow, how you doing tonight, sir?
All right, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. ShadowDM. Got a Twitch, newbie Twitcher, streamer, Shadowmaster DM at Twitch. I mean, that's pretty much it. I play home, mostly play homebrew stuff, and have done everything in person until here recently, and trying to get my Twitch thing going. So
that's fantastic. I would really hope that everyone watching didn't hunt you down and subscribe or follow your Twitch channel. Actually, if there's a mod in chat, if we can get a shout out for Shadow, or at least just post his link in chat, that'd be amazing.
And if you're ever feeling really bad about yourself, I have a YouTube channel that's ShadowDM. You can go watch that one. And
I already found it.
I've heard there's some quality content on there, sir, and I really look forward to seeing it myself.
Just make sure you get some popcorn and a very comfy chair, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
And
not one of my greatest moments.
Last but not least, and I'm going to mispronounce this again, Tolemach. Patrick.
Hi, I'm Patrick. Longtime listener, first-time person on the videos. I don't generally do streaming or twitching, but I twitch occasionally by myself. That actually sounded a lot worse than what I thought. I've played a ton of different types of TTRPGs over the years. I've got like 30 years of experience, but really, I'm just a big enthusiast of everything that is nerddom. I'm here because I love what goes on this channel, and I love what everyone's doing in the community when it comes to just being passionate about playing. So happy to be here tonight.
Man, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. I'm really excited. I took a last-minute opportunity to fill in for Luna. Obviously, the show would be much better with her here. For many reasons, because she's a lovely person, but she had something come up and she needed someone to fill in, and I was honored that she asked me to take over for tonight. It's so much fun to even be on these shows. I've been on a handful of times. Well, I say a handful, maybe 2 or 3 times, not quite a handful, but every time I've been on here, it's been one of the best experiences just to meet new people. And like a lot of the people I meet, I just keep in contact with now. And we're actually planning on collaborating on some projects as well, which is really exciting. So here we go. We'll get into the question period. Luna always opens with this question, and I feel a little silly because I'm sure I'm about to divide the room. But this is the Luna opener, and chat already knows where this is going. Do your dice have to match?
Okay. How are we prefacing this? Like in terms of when you show up to a session, you have all the same dice set.
Yeah. Do they match in color? Are they a matching set, or does it matter at all?
It doesn't matter to me because I have way too many dice. So
How many dice are we talking about? How many sets do you have?
At least 9 different sets. At least 9 sets, including 2 sets of medals, which are amazing. I highly recommend anyone who plays get metal dice if you can afford it.
Ooh.
So satisfying.
Because they hurt people's heads when you throw them at them?
When you get really angry, you just point to the forehead.
More damage, a whole lot more as soon as you step on one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
That reminds me of a very terrible joke I saw on the internet where someone's just like, hey, if you're afraid of people stealing from your fridge, just take all your D4s, put them in front of your fridge, and they take 1 D4 damage when they go to open your fridge.
No. Oh my goodness. That's like stepping on a Lego, perhaps even worse. I don't know.
It's worse.
Who else? Do your dice have to match? Does it matter at all? Like, some people are obsessive about it. Some people are like, I couldn't care less. A die is a die, doesn't matter. Where do you guys sit?
I have 3 different sets that I play with, and so I always have all 3 of them on hand at any given time. But I keep them all in a little dice pad I actually have right here with a dragon's eye on it. So
cool.
So I always have them all with me, but I tend to almost run them in little competitions against each other to see. I'm always curious which dice set will perform better on any given session.
Put the worst ones in the blender, or what?
They're too pretty to throw away.
Oh man,
none of them have ever gone away.
So your sets do match, though. You just choose a set accordingly. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't match. I have 30 years of collected dice. I still have my original, and I just mix my hand into them and pick out a couple, and I just cast them in front of people.
Chaotic.
I don't know what color they are, but I know that they kill people. It's awesome.
Okay. So it really doesn't matter for you at all. A die's a die. Gotcha.
Nope. And when people give me a beautiful set of dice,
Mhm.
I take them out. I admire them appropriately, kind of like
You
the
do not
Japanese
put them in
business
the
card.
mix bag.
I throw them in the
No,
mix
you
bag.
don't.
I mix
No,
them.
you
I
don't.
mix them in and I just shake it. I shake it real
I don't think
good.
I can be on this stream anymore.
I think a lot of people are getting really uncomfortable for no reason, but I feel it too.
Oh, I've used them too. I will take the bad dice, the ones that aren't rolling well, and I put them in the freezer. I shame them, so the other ones know that they have to really roll well.
Oh, I actually do that. But the ones that aren't good dice, I give to my players so that they can abuse them.
Hey.
That's their
love
punishment.
that.
You go to the peasants.
Shadow, do your dice sets match? Do you care?
Yes, my dice sets match. I usually have about 3 or 4, mainly for intimidation factor, because when the players start doing thing, I just grab a handful of dice and start rolling, and then
Oh, I hate that so much. I feel like it's necessary, and
yes.
I
love the
totally
phantom
understand why you
roll.
do it, but the phantom roll gets me.
Yes.
Like Mike is, I'm sure he's watching here at some point, and he's in the call with us as well because he's kind of orchestrating everything behind the scenes. But we'll be playing, and I'll see like 4 d20s go out in a row, and I'm like, fuck.
And then you just hear, huh?
Was I
and
too
you start
loud?
writing something
Should I
down.
be moving? Like, should I be asking to roll perception? Maybe I should go invisible. I don't. Am I gonna die? I'm just like I can't get out of my own head when I see them go. And I think I know where you stand on this, giving your reactions. Please inform us.
I actually have a dice set for every character I have. So when I make a new
Very cool.
character, I buy a new dice set. The only exception is my baby, and I pulled it out of my bag. It's an advantage-disadvantage die. So there's a big clear
Oh.
d20 and then a baby little red d20 inside of it. So you
Oh,
roll it and
that's
it
so
rolls advantage
cool.
and disadvantage at the same time.
Wow.
It was a present from my parents because they're like, "You're a nerd, take this." I'm like, "Cool, thanks."
Yeah.
I'm allowed to switch sets is that one because it has never done me wrong.
Does it
and I
mess
love
up the balance of everything? Like, have you? I
haven't
don't
tested
imagine
it.
it would
Probably-
because it's rolling anyway, right?
Yeah.
But
I don't think it does. I haven't really tested it.
I shouldn't
guess
put
I
that thought in
could.
your head. I'm sorry.
You really shouldn't.
It's
but
really
it rolls
cool.
well, so I'm not gonna question it.
All right, I can dig it. All right. Well, for me, when I first came in and was asked this question in one of Luna's lovely streams here, I was like, no, of course they don't need a match. And like in my head, and then I heard everyone go before me being like, yes, they obviously need a match. Like, are you a monster? And then I was like, maybe I need to change my answer. I don't know. Like, I didn't really care. But there is something to be said about a really nice fancy dice or die set, right? Like, ooh, you get a
If you're
really
bringing
nice
the
set,
Havoc
you want to
box
use
over
them
here, I
together.
don't want to see it.
Okay,
Oh, look, are they
I'm
sorted into
actually-
the different types of dice? Did I just switch it upside down and shake them?
You're a monster.
We just witnessed a murder here live on stream, folks. Someone should clip that and post it to our Twitter.
A monster.
It's okay. I'm super excited because I commissioned a set of dice for my podcast character, which are almost done, and I'm super excited. Essentially, the concept is they're clear dice with like gold flecks, so it's supposed to represent like a dying ember on the inside. So it's got like red and black fleck, like swirls and stuff on the bottom of it. So I'm super excited for that. I'm hoping it gets in next week because she's finishing it up right now. So like that'll probably be the one set of dice where it's just like, okay, you are strictly for him, and all my other dice you can go from all my other characters.
But what if they don't roll well? That's just, what if they're, like, what if they come and they're cursed? I mean, what do you do then?
Cursed character. You can't do anything about
yeah.
it. You just got a cursed character.
Yep.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I guess Calbus just needs to die, and I need to make a new character. I mean, that's just how it's gonna be. And then those dice are retired, and I never play with them again.
And they go away to the bad place. We have a ton of questions coming in. Chat, I'm so happy with you. Thank you so much for not leaving me high and dry. I really look forward to reading through these. If you guys don't mind, I will bounce one off you guys now.
Bring it.
Let's see. We have Screamer A440. Thank you so much for the question. Let's see. Long time listener, first time asker. This is like a call-in radio show. Hey, long time listener, first time caller. Hot take from Twitter. What do you think of removing player death as a consequence from your game? We are really getting off to the
I'm not
heavily
okay with
dividing
it.
questions. I love it. Thank you so much for the question.
Yeah, I'm not okay with it personally. I feel like that's part of what makes D&D D&D. Like, if you do something dumb, your character may die. Like that, I feel like it's a necessary part of D&D. I feel like some people do a better job of handling it than others. Like I would probably say that the two DMs that I feel like do the best job of it, one's the Dungeons and Randomness DM, whose name is Jason, does a very good job, and of course Critical Role Matthew Mercer does a fantastic job. But that's just my opinion on it. Is I feel like you have to have consequences, and if people have to die, then that's just how it is.
I gotta say my gut instinct is to agree with you, but I've not heard a argument to the contrary yet. But I do think that there should be some sort of consequence looming over your head to have intensity. And we may have a contrarian in the group here, but I'd love to hear your take on all of it.
You mean the
So
Chaos
anyone,
Demon?
please.
Yeah. But you just change the consequence to something else. I mean, you just make the mechanic like, what if they die, but they pick up like some sort of neurosis, or I don't know, what if one of their arms you still have all the damage, like you're burned, you come back, you're still like some sort of debilitation. So what if it was an undead party and they kept having parts fall off of them? There's so many fun ways you can do with it.
Okay, so you can get really creative with player death. Then I can see an argument for that.
And there's an anime that I'm thinking of, can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, where the players die, but memories of their past disappear every time they're brought back. So like there's all these kind of cool role-playing opportunities.
Okay. You are tilting me slightly, and I like it. Anyone else have anything to add to that? It's a really interesting question. I mean,
I'm an advocate for character death when it's in the right circumstance. So I'm gonna step away from D&D for a second and talk about masks, because that's all that I have on my mind right now. There's actually no death mechanic in Masks: A New Generation. You can fall unconscious, but there's no death mechanic. I changed it. I made a death mechanic, because in my mind, I don't give a flying fuck if you're a superhero. You can still die. Unless you're Superman and you are invincible, you can still die, especially because the premise is it's a bunch of teenagers. So like you're still getting used to your powers, you're still finding things out, you can still die. So I changed the mechanic to add death to make it a little more risky to go into combat without having a lot of team pool power, which is just an extra mechanic on top of it. But things like Monster Hearts, there's a death mechanic, but you will always come back from it. You just
Would you call that Deadpool power?
If there wasn't a copyright on it, maybe.
Hey!
And for some reason, the stream just went down.
But like Monster Hearts, there's your characters can die, but you have to sacrifice something important in order to bring your character back. So you have to like lose your influence on every other character to come back, or you have to fall into your darkest self to come back. So I think death is good as like a motivator, but I think you don't have to stay dead. So I'm gonna plant myself right on the fence of whether or not death is a good thing. Yeah,
to clarify, I'm like perfectly okay with like resurrections and all that other stuff, but like you still have to have the consequence of it not necessarily working. Like the mechanic that Jason uses is the resurrection spell, whether it's Revivify or resurrection in general, actually damages the caster of it. Plus you get like levels of exhaustion and all that other stuff. So even casting the spell can kill the person trying to resurrect that person. So like it's a very high risk, high reward type scenario. So like I'm perfectly okay with people coming back from the dead. It's just there has to be some consequence, and like
you gotta pay the price, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because otherwise they're not threatened and they're not going to actually want to play the game. Like there's got to be a buy-in.
Interesting.
Yeah,
there has to be some weight to the decision for sure.
Yeah, the biggest thing with any storytelling element is that there's some sort of stakes. Otherwise, you're just playing you're playing a video game RPG where you just literally just reset all the time. You can just do whatever you want and just try infinite number of times to keep going back in to defeat the boss or what have you.
And roguelike games like that, yeah.
Yeah, those types of games are enjoyable, and there's lots of people that including myself, who enjoy games like that. But in terms of like the actual full playing a character as if you're playing something that's real in real life, and you're getting into this character's headspace, and you're going on adventures, if there's no stakes, then there's not as good of a story, in my opinion. But there could, of course, be stakes that aren't death. I don't know what those would necessarily be, but there could be stakes that you could work into the game where you can have still that very high risk element without the risk being your character's demise. So it just depends on how you tell the story. There just has to be stakes, in my opinion. If there's not stakes, it doesn't work. But maybe that doesn't necessarily have to be death.
Yeah, brilliant point. You're giving me a lot to think about there as well. Shadow, you DM a lot. How do you handle player death? Would you ever consider removing it as a consequence, or maybe even not letting the players know that you've removed it, but maybe you're like, well, you know, they're a new party. I'll remove a little bit of the threat just to keep them alive, but I'll get them right to the brink, but maybe I'll just pull it away from, like, how do you handle that kind of thing?
Well, I usually have a lot of newer players, younger players, you know, friends of my kids and stuff like that. So I kind of stretch that, you know, death thing there. But I mean, I still leave it because you'd be surprised at what you can live through. And so I mean, there is that potential there. And I'm kind of the softy, you know. I'll try really hard not to kill one, but if you're stupid and you force me, I will kill them.
Yeah.
And I'll.
I like you.
That's the conversation we had with Mike when I started. I was like, look, man, I might embarrass myself. I don't know. I haven't played before. He was like, look, I won't put you in a situation where you'll kill yourself for the first few levels. After that, training wheels are off.
All
And
bets
if you
are off.
die, you die. Like, if you fuck up, that's on you, man. Like, you should know by that point not to fuck up like that. But there's been some close calls, and just recently I really fucked up. We somehow made it out. No thanks to me, all thanks to my lovely castmates and party members. But the threat of death was definitely ever looming. But without it, it wouldn't have been the same vibe, if that makes sense. Like, there does need to be the risk and reward balance, I suppose. Thank you to Screamer A440 for that question. That was fantastic. That was yeah. I love questions about DMing philosophy. So I hope a few more of those come up. But let's bounce into the next question. Let me scroll down here and see what we have. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced your name because I suck at these. David Strilla, what dice makes the best weapon? I think that's getting on a totally different note here. I think this is probably around the time where we were talking about, you know, do your dice match a D4 damage to the foot, maybe a metal D4 to the forehead.
I think metal dice is the clear answer. Unless we're talking giant dice. Like, in terms of like normal sized dice, it's metal dice. Like that's the most damage.
I mean, you could shave a die into a shiv, and then arguably that would do the most damage. But I feel like that's a lot of effort.
Yeah,
that's too much work.
I'm just saying, would do a lot of effort.
Dice loaded in a shoddy, someone says. Dear God.
Do you think it's D8 pointier or what?
No.
Those are pointy. Absolutely.
I feel like, but the D4 lays flat, the D8 won't lay straight up, so you can't stab it into someone's foot if it's just laying out.
Ooh,
Yeah, but what if I embedded them in a baseball bat? I mean, let's get real here.
If we're putting that much effort in, then yeah,
Let's
maybe.
get real.
Have a-
Hold on, let me get my drill and my hot glue. I'm gonna close
And
some
bedazzle it.
open.
Don't forget.
It
If I'm
still
going to be in the
depends on-
apocalypse, I'm going to look fabulous.
It
Okay.
Yeah,
still
but-
depends on exactly what material it's made out of, though. Because if
Sure.
it's still just plastic dice, I'm pretty sure the baseball bat is going to be doing the most of the damage, probably. So I don't really
Valid
know
point.
if that
Valid point.
resin dice is going to do that much more.
I don't know. I
Sounds
like
pretty good.
my blunderbuss and just instead of regular ammo, just stuff it full of dice ammo and then shoot it at somebody with your
A
gunslinger.
dice shotgun.
Exactly.
I like the nice shotgun.
What about like out of a slingshot? I think that could really do some damage. You know?
Oh,
Goodness.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I think we're giving Tolemach way too many ideas right now.
I was waiting for him to pull out a slingshot. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm just waiting for it to happen.
Don't you dare pull out a slingshot right now. Okay, good.
Oh
Cool.
no, just
Got
giant
worried.
dice.
what? I just have
Yeah.
a pair. I don't know.
Those
Are they natural
amazing.
No, they're artificial.
Wow. All right. You guys are fantastic. Oh, these are my people, folks. Hopefully they're yours as well. Same user. If your current character or current favorite character rather wasn't an adventurer, what livelihood would they lead? I'll start out with this. My main character right now is Mihai. He would be a bum vagabond working for the circus and collecting obnoxious hats. Those of you who
sounds
watch the
like a
show
very
would
life.
absolutely know why. Running from all responsibility and leaving town anytime something happens he doesn't like. Anyone else? What would your character be doing if they weren't adventuring with the party right now?
My character couldn't be anything but an adventurer due to his backstory. So my character was the third son of a noble house who essentially got ignored by his parents because his brother and sisters were geniuses or prodigies at their chosen fields. So he just kind of got the scraps. So he made a deal with the god of chaos to be like, hey, if you help me grow and become better and maybe because he did it to get the love and respect of his family. But that didn't end up happening, so they ended up disowning him. But the deal from the God of Chaos's perspective is he would eventually have to become his champion. So, like, my character could only really be an adventurer. Like, I mean, I guess in a way you could say you could start join the Church of the God of Chaos, but like, he could really only be an adventurer from the way I constructed his backstory.
Okay. And I can appreciate that. I bet a lot of people can relate to that because I mean, when you go to write a backstory, usually you're putting them in that situation for a reason, right? Like, anyone else? If you weren't an adventurer right now, or your character was not, rather, where would they be? What would they be doing? This is a tough question. Obviously, take some time, think about it.
Mostly a forever DM. There's only one character I'm actually currently playing, and that is a turtle wizard named Quar, who was sort of he was created in order for me to help build empathy. I interact in my life with a lot of people who have eating disorders and various and various other things like that. And I myself struggle with some minor psychological disorders like anxiety and stuff like that. And he was a character that I created with some of these concerns and built them out in order to help me better get in their shoes. And so one of the things which helps him out as a character is being part of an adventuring party. Before that, he was just on his own, just struggling. He had his familiar, he has an owl familiar named Kai, but other than that, he was just struggling on his own. It is the finding of the party which is really beginning to draw him out of his shell. So I don't know what he would be doing if he wasn't an adventurer. He would just struggling through life somewhere, like we all would if we were struggling in our own lives without fellowship and friends around us supporting us.
I just have to ask though, did you say Guar? Because if there's
Guar.
Primus and Guar going on in this conversation, I just
Quar,
pretty-
like the
Quar.
first syllable of quarry.
thank you.
Sorry, we aren't warning things that much for you tonight.
It's like, wow.
All right, who else? Hit me.
I'm gonna step away from the wholesomeness about wanting to be an adventurer. My character Alona was kind of forced into it. She was a bodyguard, or meant to be a bodyguard for a noble who's in our party. Except for they were a bunch of delinquent kids and got in trouble, and then got sent to prison, and Alona got sent to the monastery. So I feel like if she wasn't an adventurer, she'd probably be running some underground fight club somewhere, because she's very hot-headed and just likes to break things. So that she doesn't really care that much about her party, so she'd probably just be running some weird underground drug fight ring.
It sounds badass. I like it.
I only have done a one shot in the last little bit, and it was a warlock who was honestly made to explode things. And he had just found a place in a Western style fantasy realm where he was actually had taken on the role of a constable. And he is coming back at some point for his revengeance, as most of his party was killed. But I'm sure that at some point he will go back to that happy lifestyle and look after the people in that neighborhood.
And
David?
try not to blow up everything.
Well,
I'll sneeze and
come
blow
on,
up
that's like half the
something.
fun.
Yeah.
What's the character concept? Oh, I cast Fireball.
The door is
And it
locked.
works.
Oh, fireball. All right, Shadow, what about you? I mean, surely you've played a few characters. I know you primarily DM now, but do you have a favorite? What would they be doing now?
Well, I've got one right now that's a druid, and my first druid that I've ever played, and I'm actually really loving it. And he's an adventurer strictly for revenge. His parents were murdered, so that's why he's joined the adventuring crew. But if he wasn't there, he would probably just be back in the woods, playing around as a bear, harassing people, scaring children.
Are you saying he's going to be Yogi the Bear?
I was gonna ask if there were picnic baskets involved.
Yeah.
A picnic basket?
Yes. Hey, boo-boo. Hey, boo-boo.
That would be amazing.
What are you gonna do with that?
Uh,
Picnic basket?
New character concept, need to write
Yes.
it down
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, get a pen, quick.
Yeah,
Oh my
the title
goodness.
will be Picnic Baskets and Blood.
Oh wow.
There we go.
Yeah, you know
I'm
what?
so
gonna,
into this.
Can I subscribe
What
for more
is
content of that, please?
Yes,
real
please.
question. Would his favorite drink be a Bloody Mary?
Oh yeah. And Bloody Steve and Bloody Earl and yeah.
Oh,
Oh, shit's getting dark quick, folks. I love it.
If I could make the bear a vampire.
Ooh, yeah.
There you go.
whoa. I absolutely into that because then, what was the name of the Yogi's the little friend? Like he would just follow him around. He's
Boo boo, right? Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's really effed up. I really like where this is going. Because then you just send in a group of like low-level rangers to go to try to kill a bear, and then it turns out to be a vampire bear.
Yeah, the guards just, yeah, you know, there's this bear out there. It's like a little too close to town. Maybe you four can just like, you know, fuck off and go kill it.
My DM isn't watching this, right?
No promises.
Mental note.
Mm.
You walk in the woods and there's the bear and he just goes,
And I'm just gonna be like, I've got other things to be doing that isn't this, right? I'll be back. You guys have fun.
Yeah, you know what? The bear's fine.
Cool. He ain't
Yeah.
hurt no one.
Thank you so much for that question, David Tilstra. I hope I didn't mangle your name all that much. I probably did at least a little bit. I think I may have the first time. I think the second may have been a little bit better, but I probably still messed it up. All right, folks, next question from the community. Relic Know Your Role. Thank you very much for weighing in here. question for the group: do you prefer gridded combat or theater of the mind?
Fuck.
Gridded.
Definitely theater of mind.
Ooh, okay, so we have division
100.
here already. Let's hear your arguments.
It's what I know. It's what I've played. So, I mean,
I've played both.
yeah. And, the campaign always goes awry. So I think when you put something out, it's going to, it's not going to go that way. So usually I'll start with here's your starting point, here's your ending point, and, put some notes in the middle, because your players are always gonna they're gonna head off on the path, and they're gonna take that hard left, and it's like everything out of the way. So just roll with it, and I put some notes in the middle in case they get stuck. Then I can kind of pull them back in and kind of go where they want to go. But for the most part, it's just an organized clusterfuck, and it's fun.
Hey, that I
sounds
get.
beautiful.
Like
Alright, who else? Gridded or theater? Let's
I've
hear it.
played both, and both have pros and cons. Like
For sure.
I like, if I was speaking to me personally, I feel like it depends on what DM you have.
Ooh.
Like, there are some DMs who are very structured and who kind of really need the gridded setup in order for them to visualize things. While there's others DMs, a really good example of this, in my opinion, is I think it's Brendan Murphy for Not Another D&D Podcast, who does all theater of the mind. He's very creative and does enough that I feel like if you're a player, you can completely visualize enough of your surrounding space to be like, okay, this is what I have available to me to work around that type of thing. So I feel like it's very dependent upon your DM, because I enjoy both styles. Like, I've played both as grid and theater of the mind, so like I can see both styles working. It just kind of depends on where your DM's.
Okay.
I've
I
got.
think I can definitely agree with you on that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I've got. Someone mentioned in the chat earlier that, oh, he's 30, he looks like 22. The depressing thing is I'm actually 40, so let's just be sad about that for a second. So I've got 30 years of experience in this, so I've run through all 5 different types of D&D, like 1st edition through 5th. And I think that when you start, you love the theater of mind because it doesn't cost you more than what you're already paying for those damn books. But as you move in and slowly incorporate and start getting art, you start building all these amazing miniatures and buying all these things that you have to start using for those maps. And then you get really sick of doing that, or you have children, and then you've kind of leaned into the middle of it. You find like the valley of it. So, and yes, that is the Mystery Machine, and it's like a bunch of stuff that I've never used, but I had to paint them. Because I made them from scratch.
Wow. Dude.
Like,
That's wild.
I know. So Yogi Bear is next on the list now.
From
need to roll.
Hanna-Barbera Studios. The Bloodbath.
Need to do a Call of Cthulhu one shot.
To come up with a name for a vampire bear combination, and pick which one.
I actually did a Red Riding Hood campaign and had the 3 little owlbears with Goldilocks, and yeah.
I love it.
Oh, that sounds so adorable when they tear apart.
Listen, let me have my cute picture of an owl bear in my head, please.
What? They just look so adorable with the entrail hanging out of their beak.
So cute.
Oh no. Sorry, Red Riding Hood. You rolled exceptionally poor in initiative, and now they all get attacks on you first.
This organ's too hot. This heart's too cold.
This leg is just right.
Hey.
Well, I kind of took the whole story and turned it up on its head, so it's, yeah. Red Riding Hood is actually the villain.
BBEG, Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
I love it.
Those bears were framed. They were innocent, I tell you. Oh man, that's amazing. Oh, anyone else gridded or theater of the mind? Any input?
I don't find myself good enough at tracking things in my head to DM theater of the mind.
Sure.
But I also don't do full out maps either, primarily just for financial reasons. I
effort.
really, well, I will make, I actually have them behind me, but I will make just like different little gridded things on foam board and just draw the terrain, and then
Oh,
we'll
cool.
use D6s as our minis and just just move them around the board. So it's really just more for tracking than actual any giving you some sort of experience with it. But it just helps me with tracking, and that's not because one I prefer necessarily more than the other. It's just I mess up and lose track of stuff with theater of the mind. I just can't do it great with just the way that I DM.
And you can't trust the players.
Oh,
Not
no.
just players.
No.
I think I can relate to that. Like in the campaign that we're doing now, we have a gridded system. We're using Pathfinder in Fantasy Grounds. It works so great. But I often thought, like, I've been thinking about, okay, I want to run my own campaign. I want to write my own adventure system, things like that. But it often came back to like, okay, so I bought the Kids on Bikes rule set, for instance. It was on sale one day when I checked up on it. Fantastic system if you guys don't know about it out there. But it's very narrative driven. It's very storytelling collaboration type of system. But that really functions much better with theater of the mind. Like you wouldn't really want to lay out maps with a system like that. I don't think, or at least I haven't seen it done in a way that I can imagine myself doing it. I'm thinking of Kolok 1991. If you guys haven't heard that show, there's a podcast out there, but it's fantastic. It's a very prime example of what Kids on Bikes can be all about. But I got a little bit obsessed with that for a while. So I was listening to it all the time while I worked. And I was like, I gotta get this system, and I'm gonna write my own campaign, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that. And that was last year, and I still haven't done any of it. And I'm so fucking busy, and I'm tired. I want to go to sleep.
It's not going to happen for 10 more years, sir.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I have a newborn. She is sleeping now, but she'll be up to feed
Don't
soon.
jinx it.
She would
Yeah,
be
no,
Don't jinx it.
she's so good at. I'll shut up about her now. But she's so good. She sleeps. She doesn't cry. It's amazing. I
That's
did
awesome.
just jinx it, of course. Okay. Thank you very much for that question from the community. I really appreciate it. Let's see. We have two that are pretty similar. I'll see if I can mash them into one here. Quaman is asking, and Pokey Spinella. I really hope I didn't mess up your name. Let's see. Oh no, I'm sorry. They're two different totally. Okay, let's just start with Kwame's question. The next two are very similar. What game system have you not played yet you really want to try? Is there anything out there that like you're really curious about and you haven't used it yet, but if you were to do another campaign, maybe you'd like to try it out?
Jump in here. I actually just bought Vampire the Masquerade.
Ooh.
I've wanted to delve into it for quite a while, and I actually just got it, and I want to play with it. And yeah, I got my dice. We tried one little starter game just to kind of give it a break in, and I played it with the D10s. Yeah, don't do that. I'm not smart enough to do that, so that's why I went ahead and bought the dice because yeah.
It's a lot of D10s.
Yeah, it is, and trying to figure out, 2 through 5 is a fail, and 2 through 5 is a fail, and then 6 through 9 is a success, and then you have critical success and critical fails, and it's like, okay, I'm just doing the regular dice because I am not this smart. I had it written out on a piece of paper and still screwed it up. So
I'm actually in the same boat. I want to try Vampire the Masquerade as well. I was invited to a stream of it starting next Tuesday. So I'm very excited to try it. It's something that, like, lore wise and things like that, I'm very interested in. I'm kind of like the dark, macabre kind of person in my group. So they're like, Anna, go play that game. You'll like it. So I'm excited to play it.
You're all allowed to have your opinions, but I grew up around a group of goths, and I have nothing but haunted hurt around that game.
For me, there's kind of two systems which are fairly related that I both want to play. It's the Fate Accelerated system. If people have heard of that, that's something that I wanted to try. And then I think it's crap. I'm brain farting on the name, but it's M&M is the initials for it. It's like something of Masterminds or Minions of
Slim
Masterminds.
Shady.
No,
I'm
definitely not. Definitely not Slim Shady.
Marshall
Will not
Mathers,
be
right,
sending
gotcha.
up right now. I'm sorry.
Maniacs and Masterminds? Mutants and
Monster?
Masterminds?
Mutants and Masterminds is the
Minions of Masterminds.
Nice.
That's what it is.
Thank you.
I could not for the life of me think of it, but yeah, that's the other system. Just because I always kind of found the superhero genre really, really interesting, and I've always wanted to create like my quote unquote own style of superhero. But considering I've been a D&D lifer since, because funny story is how I started playing D&D was German class in high school, if you would believe it. Like my German teacher was old school nerd. He was actually he was also a blacksmith. He made his own ringmail and chainmail.
No way.
Not even joking. Like outside of his class, he had this giant like display area where he had his own set of chainmail that he actually made inside of it.
That is badass.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite teachers ever. Unfortunately, after I graduated, they cut the program. So we started. World of Darkness was the first game that I played, which was my third year German class. And then in fourth class, and then my senior year, we played D&D. So that's how I got into all this stuff. And 10 years later, I'm still just as addicted to it when we first started.
Going strong, eh?
Nice.
That's amazing. So you know, I said two questions were very similar, and then I backtracked that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and reaffirm that I just got the names wrong. And in fact, Paxter has been asking this question every stream, I believe, and I'm not sure if it's ever been answered. So I'm glad to be the one who was able to bring it up. But their question is very similar. What game system would you like to try play? Could be a full system or a one page or anything, right? But to continue on here, anyone who hasn't answered, like what would you guys want to get into next? Is there anything really piquing your interest?
The bundle for racial justice and equality has like a bunch of different types in there, but the one that's sticking out at me is Lancer. They've got the core book in there, and it's the art on it is actually done by a guy who called Kill 6 Billion Demons is the webcomic he does. If you haven't read it, you should go watch it. The guy's art is amazing, and I'm completely going to try this game out just because of the cover. It is pretty as hell.
Any other takers?
I mean, there's a couple like the newest release Pathfinder I wanted to try because
Yes.
I play an online version of the original Pathfinder, which I find really interesting just because it has a lot of things from old school D&D, which I really enjoy that I miss in 5th edition. Like having all this like 9 billion skills and not knowing what to do with half of them.
That's part of the fun. It's Mathfinder.
Yes, and then Starfinder / Star Wars RPG.
Yeah, I'm really interested in checking out Starfinder sometime. We actually are starting a Star Wars campaign here on the channel. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but you should definitely apply.
I already applied to it. I'm waiting for more confirmation on that.
You asked which version, and I have no sweet clue Mike and is it Atomic Zero? Someone can correct me. Please correct me. There's some lovely person from our community who's offered to DM it. And if you guys here and you guys in chat as well, if you're interested in playing a Star Wars campaign, please inquire more in the Discord. In fact, I'll see if that works. Yes. Okay. So there's a link to our Discord chat. Go ahead and click that and pop in and ask if you'd like to be part of it. However, I will make this caveat. Like, I don't know how many people they're actually going to bring in. Like, I imagine 5 or 6 on the high end, maybe 4. But
Oh yeah,
I've heard we've had so many applicants.
oh yeah.
But
Just
if
have
you're
them all play
passionate about it,
Ewoks.
yeah, it is Atomic Zero. Thank you, Kwame. I really appreciate it, buddy. And Atomic Zero is super cool. I'm sure this is going to be an amazing show for the channel.
Awesome.
And I'm really excited to see it. Unfortunately, I can't apply because I have no time as it is. I used to be such an avid video gamer, and now the only time I get to game at all is here on Sundays. I'm not willing to give up my D&D time. Well, Pathfinder time in this case, but I'm like, baby, no, you're second. My party needs me. Okay.
Oh.
I mean, when you get to the nitty gritty, there's not a ton of differences between.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, yes, I know some people who are avid Pathfinder, avid D&D, say, no, they're entirely different. Just like when you actually look into the details of the two systems.
It's like that meme with Pam. Corporate asked us to find the differences between these two photos. They're the same thing. You just squint your eyes a little. Of course, it's not really, I probably just offended a bunch of people in chat.
Yeah,
they are very distinct.
Yes, there are still differences and nuances that are core to each game, but like in terms of playing a character, like you're not going to have a huge difference for playing a rogue from Pathfinder versus playing a rogue in 3.5.
Sounds like a Coke Pepsi kind of situation.
Those are totally different, and you take it back. Okay, let's go with it. Coke or Pepsi, real quick.
Coke.
I'm a Pepsi guy.
Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Ooh,
Beer.
Pepsi.
Beer. The right answer. All right, you win.
Fair.
My goodness, we're dividing the room as much as possible tonight, and I kind of like it.
I'm Coke, despite the fact I'm in North Carolina and Pepsi stuff is all around me. So it's like...
Wow, that takes effort.
Fun fact, Pepsi is meant to be drank at room temperature and Coke is meant to be drank cold. If you do it correctly, they taste the same.
Really?
I've heard that, actually, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see an experiment in my near future. Thank you for that.
So
I am intrigued.
So something that's hilarious is in the town that I live in, we're at a college town, where the college is Coke products, but almost every other business that serves soda is Pepsi. Don't ask me why.
That's big Pepsi money, son.
Yeah.
It's working its way into the small business.
Yeah, but
Where's my tinfoil hat? Quick.
Apparently, I can't afford to pay my college enough money.
Oh man. Oh my goodness. All right. Next question from Pokey Spinilla. Man, I'm just gonna give the caveat now. I'll never say anyone's name right. I'm gonna stop apologizing for it. I'm Canadian. I'm sorry, eh? There's nothing I can do about it. Okay.
Canadian brothers represent.
Hey, high fives. Yeah. All right. Funniest thing that's ever happened to you in a game that you've played or DM'd.
Oh, I totally have this.
Here we go. Please.
This was this was 2 sessions ago. My party had been traversing into an underground ruin, which was a remnant of a war long past, and they had come across essentially what amounted to a bathroom with part of it caved in. And very long story short, they ended up coming across some ropers, and they killed most of them except for the last one, which they polymorphed into a beaver. The beaver proceeded to almost kill a party member before they then flushed it down the arcane toilet. and into the demi-plane that it goes through. So
Of course.
that was the funniest thing
Naturally.
that I've ever seen was somebody polymorphing a roper into a beaver and then flushing him down a toilet. That is,
How does a beaver fit in a toilet?
it was a basin.
Very carefully.
It was a large basin with just a rune on the back, and they just stuffed him in there. I was like, make a strength check.
So-
And it's just like,
Make a strength check.
So this is from my podcast's very first session where the party meets up at the tavern. We're sent to go hunt a bunch of gnolls, and one of my party members said gnolls make great fur coats. My next response: they also make great stews. And everyone just looks at us like, "What are you talking about?" Because like you have to remember, gnolls are very disgusting creatures. So like, there's no way they actually make great fur coats or great stews. So
Maybe they have the right hands to sew nice. Maybe they make
There you go.
themselves very nice fur coats.
Oof.
And
But they probably taste horribly.
and then when we ended up fighting the gnolls, we had this really ingenious plan to basically have them kill each other. And there was one gnoll left on his last leg. He almost one-shots with a crit our knight character. And it's ever since that he was been forever immortalized as the critical gnoll.
Oh my, I love it.
Yes, we are terrible people, but it's okay.
That's the way to be, man. Who else? Give me some silly, funny moments from games you played in or DM'd.
I actually said this one in the earlier part of the chat before we came on, so I'll just repeat it to be
Please.
uncreative. So I used to run a lot of games inside of a comic book store, Coliseum of Comics in Orlando. And I had the opportunity to run their Wednesday games when it was New Comic Book Day, and they would have the new adventures coming out from Wizards of the West Coast. So this is 4th edition. And in comes this gentleman, has the leather coat on, has the boots, also has a mohawk, pink, with sunglasses on, and he's got his own character. And in my head, I'm going, oh, this guy's a badass. He probably plays Vampire the Masquerade. Oh, we're gonna have something real here today. All
We're
right.
not prejudiced around here, but yeah.
No, I'm. And he pulls out his dice, and I looked at everybody. All right, guys, let's roll for initiative. Looks up at me and says, "I open the gates of battle." Pulls out, and I realized that this man's voice is actually this way. He's now pulling a character. He talks like this normally in this high-pitched squeal. And he likes the game so much that he starts showing up at every one of my games. And I can never ask him why. I'll always wonder.
That must have been such a funny moment.
It was funnier before when we were laughing about it. Repeat jokes don't work, ladies and gentlemen,
No,
unless you do it in
that's-
threes.
It's
Okay,
reminding
okay.
me-
Though I have a question. What was your actual facial expression when those words in that voice came out of him? Like we need a reenactment of that face.
Really? Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
This is slightly unrelated, but I have a very similar story. There's this I do judo, and this guy was training for he was training the provincial team, which I was on for Canada Games, and super cool dude, and he's jacked, and he's the fittest man you've ever seen in your life, and he's a badass black belt, and you watch him kick ass at tournaments all the time. Totally the right guy to do it, right? And like the manliest man ever, basically, is what I'm saying. But he had the highest pitch voice, and no one saw it coming. But like it, it doesn't change anything about him. He's still like the most badass judo guy ever, and he became a good friend of mine, really. But it was like we all left that training camp. Like, was he messing with us? Like you never know, right? But yeah, amazing, right? Let's see. I think. Let me just see. Yep. I think we're ready to take a little bit of a break here, folks. So when we come back, I've got some specific questions for all of you, and a few more questions from the community. So keep them coming. well, we're away. We're going to take 5 minutes and we're going to go hashtag free the P and get a drink and do all that fun stuff. And when I get back, we'll pick up where we left off. But until then, folks, see you again in a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tales from the Tavern. Thanks for hanging in with us there and letting our lovely cast take a little bit of a break. Let's see. We had a poll up in chat. Should player death be removed from tabletop RPGs? A resounding 83% came in with no. What else do we have? I just like jokingly put Coke or Pepsi in chat. I think it was mainly Coke, but we did have one Mountain Dew, Nate's Knife Pit. You know what? We have a Pepsi in there. Jim the Dim. Thank you, Jim. My man. Let's see.
Hard-hitting questions.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, these are really the peak of journalism. Coke or Pepsi? So let's
We're
pick
just
up
trying to split
where
the chat.
yeah. Let's pick up where we left off,
Oh,
and I can't
gosh.
remember where that
RC Cola.
was.
RC Cola. Ah,
Wow, that's
who
a
are
blast from the
you?
past.
Had
Let's
to.
actually, Jim the Dim, you just got awarded a question for answering Pepsi.
Yay!
your favorite prop, not limited to TTRPGs. From
RC the
Jim
moon
Dim.
pie. I like it.
Oh, I don't know where it is. Yes, I do.
Ooh,
Talking
we're gonna
about
see
having
a prop.
A
You guys
bunch
can
of props here.
you can discuss it. You can just say, but by all
I'm a
means, if you have
cosplayer.
it,
I
show it
have
to the
everything
camera.
by me. I made
Ooh.
Snow White Poison Apple, and it glows in the
No
dark.
way.
Yeah. So this is my like little pride and joy because I cosplay Snow White, and then coming in second are potion bottles that
Oh,
Wow.
nice.
I use for run fairs.
That is beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
this
awesome.
is what I do in my spare time.
I'll go.
Please.
Ooh.
This
Whoa.
is the Pokenomicon Ex Mortis, which is actually something that I've actually designed all the different pages for and actually made it
Nice.
Pokemon themed.
Oh
Because
my god.
yeah,
If
there's
you're listening to this on
Charmander.
audio, please go and find
Yes.
the VOD and look at this.
That is awesome.
Of course, there's some
Holy
pretty much
shit.
dang on replications from it, but I had so much fun just finding different art to reference for this to reincorporate along with it. And
Wow.
I
That's
was, of
so
course,
cool.
Ash squared, which is, let's just combine the two Ashes and have some good times. And also found some fantastic Aztec art to fold in there and make into the different people like Geodude. It was
That is beautiful.
I
Thank you.
want 7.
Very well done, man.
That is awesome.
Only one of its kind, and I actually got lucky and one of the stop animation artists from Evil Dead 2 was there at Spooky Empire and saw it, and we had a great chat. So, because if there's one person I could meet, it would be Bruce Campbell, and I would hug him, and he would feel
Man,
very
Bruce
uncomfortable
Campbell is
about it.
such a legend. All right, anyone else favorite props? What do you got?
I have nothing right here with me. One of the favorite things that I've ever did was whenever I did a one shot of Call of Cthulhu, which was set in the Great Chicago Fire, where essentially the
Wow.
the concept being that it wasn't actually they fought zombie Mrs. O'Leary's cow at one point in time during that one shot, but I made a prop for each one of the players, and that was kind of my first foray into using physical props other than just making the maps.
Awesome.
But I used a lot of red food coloring for some reason, and I'll let you guess on certain props, which was just a real blast. They had a bunch of different runes carved on different things with a Dremel, or so that was a blast. But I don't have any of it here at my desk, unfortunately, though.
No, that's great, man. But thank you. Yeah, that's. Whew. I would
do
have
have
loved to
those
see some of
maps I
that.
was talking about earlier. So.
Oh yeah, wow.
So like some of just the basic gridded maps on like the just the cardstock or whatever.
That's awesome.
That's basically just the dinky little My Dwarven Forge.
Yeah.
But those
I
are
know
the ones that
something
count the most.
like tabletop RPGs can get you into other creative outlets. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you start out just playing a game with your buds, and then all of a sudden you're designing maps, and then like you're dressing up in cosplay for your games, and like you're making props,
Always.
and like it's just such a cool creative outlet that can branch out into so many more facets of creativity, I suppose.
Dude, it's a gateway drug.
Yeah, and here I am hosting a show about it. Thank you, Luna.
You
Hope
have
you
now
feel
come
better
full
soon.
circle.
Yeah, bringing it around town, boys. Uh, anyone else favorite props? I've got a little bit of a story. I bought a ridiculously large potion bottle, and I don't
Nice.
have it here. It's somewhere out in my office room there. But it was really huge, and I wanted to find a replica of it that was like this big because my character's tiny, but I wanted to be able to hand it because we do the show live. Like I wanted to be able to hand it out of frame on my webcam and have the barbarian take it in the small one and be like, "Thank you," and then hand it back to me, and I'd be like, "Oh, great! Here's the potion."
That's awesome.
Just for the laugh, I was like, "Dude, I bought this potion. I'm gonna find you a small one and send it to you. This is gonna be amazing." But we never ended up figuring
Do
it
it for
all
the
out.
joke.
But yeah, stay tuned for season 3. Maybe we'll finally pull off that gag. But we had a bunch
Honestly,
of silly ideas like that.
I've got a dumb one as well, or I actually should say the smartest one from pop bottles. The tops of just pop tops, or what are they called here? Apparently, pregnancy
Cap.
brain just hit. Caps, bottle caps. Thank you, because all the different colors to mark for like when you're poisoned or marked, or when your character is
Oh.
bloodied, and you just put it underneath the figures or whatever you're using to mark your character. Like it's the most simplistic, but actually the best way to just, hey, I'm really wounded over here, and then everybody remembers to look at it. That was a 4E kind of trick that got passed around a lot.
Yeah, that's really clever. There's so much utility in something like that, and something so simple and ubiquitous that you could find in any household, right?
Right.
And it gives you an excuse to drink Mountain Dew, which is great.
My gut can't handle that anymore, boss.
We were just talking about maybe folks in chat can weigh in on this, but apparently Mountain Dew was intended to be mixed with whiskey. Am I saying that right? If I just butchered that, I'm sorry. But if any of you out there tonight can try that and report back to us, have 4 or 5 and then let us know. We're only here for the next hour though, so get on it, okay?
We're timing you. We're timing you.
And make a video and please tag us in it on Twitter. We'd love that.
Only the bravest of you.
To boldly go where no man has gone before, to Mountain Dew and whiskey. All right, I've got some specific questions for all of you lovely folks. As you know, Luna gave me a little bit of a background on you guys, and getting to talk to you a little bit more, I think I can add a little bit to these, but you guys are all curious in your own way, and I would love to prod at what makes you you. So let's get into it. Let's start with Shadow. You've been writing a campaign. We talked about this a little bit before the show. I told you that I had the intention of writing a campaign at some point. And whether I'm too lazy to or too busy to is, we don't have to discuss that. A little bit of both, perhaps. But specifically, man, what has been your biggest hurdle in campaign writing and how do you overcome it? Like, there must be so many things that you never think of that just come up that are a setback or a stonewall. How do you progress through that and continue to use it as a creative outlet and progress further in your story?
Biggest thing I've run into, and it's something that I, just never really thought of, is if I'm going to create something, there are certain things you can't use. If you're going to make it your own, because Wizards has a pretty good grasp on a lot of the stuff. So, and I had to download the 45-page list of what Wizard says. This is a definite no. This is a maybe.
Copyrighted materials or trademarks.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. And trying to adapt around what I'm going to do, and and I've got some advice from other people that have done this, and run into it, but it's like, well, I'm going to create this. So, I've got to make sure that the name ain't right and the name is different and, some
Yeah.
other things like that. And that's the most aggravating part because, I'm going to make something. Okay. Now I have it. Now I've got to make it completely different, but yeah, still recognizable.
Are they limited only on like is it just for namesake, or is it like the likeness of it as well as trademark? Like we had a talk about a beholder, for instance. Now we couldn't
Yeah.
necessarily call it a beholder, could we?
No.
Could it look kind of like a beholder? Could the players know that we're probably referencing a beholder, or does it have to be something totally different?
Yeah, that's kind of the gray area I'm kind of running into. I'm not 100% on that. I know none of the stats can be the same. None of the
Ooh.
the spells and that can be the exact same. You can't use their names. You can call it something else. Flame ball instead of fireball, or stuff like
Oh
that.
my goodness, that must be frustrating.
It is.
Yeah. That's something I've never considered, even the spell names and stuff.
Yeah.
My goodness. Maybe I'm not writing a campaign anymore. I quit.
I'm throwing in the towel before I even start.
I'll tell you what, if you want any help with it, I'll just put all my creative effort toward helping you complete your project. Because it's obviously a steep slope to climb when you consider all those fine details that you have to consider before you can actually publish something and not have a lawyer call you immediately after and say, oh, by the way, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Wow. How close are you to completion? I mean, we talked a little bit about you've identified a lot of things. Like you said, you have a whole stack of things that perhaps you can't use, or mistakes that you've made. As you say, I think you're probably being a little hard on yourself, eh? But
Yeah.
but how far into it are you?
Probably about halfway.
Wow. Okay.
Because I mean, like I said, as far as writing out, point A to point B to the finish line, that part's fairly easy. It's just all the in between of the big bad guys and the other encounters along the way. You've got to nitpick the ever loving shit out of every single one of them to make sure that it is, but it isn't, and it's not close enough that it's you got to play the lawyer because the lawyer's going to be, well, it's just close enough.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Oh man.
You got to love that a lot to keep working at it, right?
Yeah,
Well,
it must be a passion project.
It's kind of like you're halfway up the hill and you're like, okay, well, I can continue up, or I could. Well, it's just as far down, so I might as well. I can't
Down
stay
has less
here.
resistance, but yeah, no.
Yeah,
The achievement
I can't
waits for you
stay
at the
here,
top,
so
right?
That's cool.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear one day that you've completed it and maybe give it a try or buy it from you or something, man. That's really cool stuff. I have so much appreciation for what you're doing because, like I say, my sister and I have looked into doing it as well. And we're like bouncing around ideas, and of course, we're like really creative. But yeah, it's those things that you don't even consider when you're just like laughing with your friends, being like, "We should totally do this." Oh, here's a cool idea. There's a cool idea. It's all that fine detail work in the back end.
Well, that's
Lawyer.
kind of how it started. Hey, man, this would be a great idea. Let's do
Yeah.
this, and then you get, like you said earlier, you get balls deep in it, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
now, oh crap, what have I done?
What can of worms have I
You've
opened
created
for
a
myself?
monster.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Thank you. Thank you for that. If you ever want to talk about this kind of stuff, it is like something that I'm cautiously stepping or like dipping my toes into. So I'd love to talk to you about it if you ever want to bounce some ideas around.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah, and it gets better because once you've kind of, you've taken an owl bear and you figured out how to change it enough that it's kind of, but not quite. It may be an owl
Right.
Wolverine instead of an owl bear, but and then the next one you make's a little easier, and then the next one you make's a little easier. So
Yeah, so you definitely have to develop a skill set of obfuscating things just enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
And trying to recreate something because the D20 system is completely locked down. So now I've got to figure out an entire new system.
My goodness. Yeah, that's more so what we're leaning towards, I suppose, like making our own role system.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
That's been the biggest hurdle, is trying to figure out a new rule system.
Okay. Well, man, I wish you the best of luck with it. Obviously, hopefully, there's some people who you can make some connections with who might be able to help you out in here. I'm sure there was someone else in our community who's doing something very similar or has done something recently. And if you're out there
Yeah.
and if you ever hear this, reach out to our boy Shadow and
Yeah.
either ask him for advice or help him out.
Really sounds like it could be the next collectible dice set, actually. Like, you have the opportunity to make, like, something shiny for people to start collecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, but thank you. Yes.
Steal it. You ever played Hero Quest back in the day?
Oh my god. Yeah.
Because
No.
the dice actually have different icons on them. Like, there was swords and shields, and there were skulls on it. And it was
Yeah.
like half the fun was actually you couldn't get more than what were in the box, but so they started selling more, and of course you have to get more. So like, it's actually a big opportunity for you.
That is an awesome idea, and I am really hating myself for not thinking of it.
You
What
can
do you
take
mean?
it.
Of course you
I haven't
thought of it.
copyrighted this. Here.
Oh, look at that, folks. We love helping each other out here. Let's hop over to Anna. Specific question for you, my friend.
Okay.
You mentioned just recently that you do a lot of cosplay,
Yeah.
and you showed some of your props, which are badass, by the way, like really
Thank you.
professionally done. What made you get into cosplaying in the first place? Like, what drew you to it as a hobby, and how long does it take to make those things?
So the easiest attention is the best way to describe why I got into it.
Okay.
I went to cons a lot with my family when I was younger, and it was like it's fun, but you can only mill around like Artist Alley and stuff like that for so long until you're like, I've seen everything here. Um, as a cosplayer, you don't walk more than 4 steps without getting stopped, so it gets your time at like cons longer, and
Right.
like can be a little bit annoying, like when you're chugging a beer and then all of a sudden someone's like, Snow White, and I'm like, I gotta hand this beer off before the 6-year-old sees me with it. Hello.
Snow White's not drunk, sweetie.
You're drunk.
I promise.
so-
my first one.
Right.
But I started off mainly because like I saw a couple of cosplayers and I follow a bunch of cosplayers, of course, and I'm like, that's something I really want to do. And I wasn't really a creative, like a horribly creative person before that. But then came my 5 foot tall Harley Quinn mallet, which is my pride and I have scars on my hands from making it, but it's my pride and joy.
Literal blood, sweat, and tears went into it.
Yes.
Awesome.
As for like how long it takes to make it, it really depends. My Snow White cosplay, which is the one that I'm most known for, was actually something I commissioned because I don't know how to make a ball gown. I have no clue. So I commissioned one of my friends who works in theater. She does costuming for professional theaters. And I'm like, hey, Snow White dress? Which itself weighs 25 pounds.
No.
Wow.
Any cosplayer you see is not comfortable. I will tell you that
Oh
now.
my god.
Any cosplayer you ever see, unless they are in like a pajama version or something, they're not comfortable. But we do it because it's fun, and like it's a great feeling to have someone like recognize you and be like, I really love what you're doing here. Like my Snow White, I go with my friend who dresses as Belle, and we bring baskets of little carnations to give out to kids who come up to us.
That's so
Um,
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and my favorite experience ever was actually a guy stopped me, and of course, as a woman in cosplay, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah, here we go. All
hi,
right.
yeah. I'm like, what
Sorry.
weird Disney thing do you have, sir? Like, I'm not. But he's like, this is gonna sound weird, but can you FaceTime my daughter? She's homesick. And I'm like, sure.
Oh.
So I FaceTime this 4-year-old girl, and as like I'm getting ready to hang up, all I hear is, "Mom, we have to go. Snow White needs me." And I'm like, that is the cutest thing. That is, it was precious.
Oh.
My day was made, and the guy was like so grateful and so thankful. And that's why like I cosplay a range of different things, but Snow White is by far my favorite because just of the wholesome interactions you have with like kids who has no idea what's going on here, but I am discount Disney for those children when they're at the con.
That is super cool, and I can totally get the appeal of that. Like just to make kids happy, and like
Mhm.
how many, like, I've never been confession moment. I've never been to a big con ever. I tried to make it down to PAX this year, didn't happen. Maybe next year, no idea. But like what? There must be a lot of kids, eh? Like kids going with their parents, or kids just going because they're interested themselves. Like,
Yeah. So I schedule my cosplays depending on like the audience I know will be there. Kids are usually there on
right.
Sundays. Like and like parents are like, okay,
Okay.
you can finally go on Sundays. Like everything's kind of closing down. It's not very popular on Sundays. So I use my more gory or risque ones on Fridays and Saturdays when I know it's more adults there, and then when I know kids, usually Snow White comes out on Sundays because I'm like that's when all the children show up. So it's more, you get a handle of it, you kind of figure it out the more you go to
Right.
cons and being like, okay, Fridays is like where you get like the people who are really eager. So like if you have a weird niche costume, you usually do like Fridays because you're gonna get like those two dudes who are like, ah, you're that thing. Saturdays are
Yeah.
like the more popular like Harley Quinn, Two-Face, things like that, and then Sundays are always Snow White for the children.
It's kind of amazing that you think of it that that you have that much structure to your weekend. Like that, I never would have even
So much
considered
structure.
that. That's amazing, though.
Mm.
What advice would you give to someone, perhaps someone in the community right now who's listening and is like, yeah, this is cool, love what she's saying. What advice would you give to them, for someone who's looking to get into cosplay, or to
So
simply take it to the next level, I guess, and go to a con?
So I would first say, like, if you're starting out cosplay, don't try and buy something. Don't try to buy and make something big and expensive. My first cosplay was with stuff that I found from my closet, with a little bit of an exception because I have training in theater makeup and special effects makeup. So my
Right.
first ever costume was Two-Face. So I spent all of the time doing latex work of the Two-Face burn marks and everything.
Whoa.
But everything
dang.
else that I did was like I got a white shirt that I burned, and then I got a blazer that I just ripped open and painted like the gore inside. It was all stuff that I already had, so I spent more time on that. So if you're starting out cosplay and you're not like 100% sure this is what you want to sink all of your time and so much money into, um,
It's a
people
bit of a
talk about
trembling
like
in your voice there. That was hard hitting,
minis.
wasn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
people talk about like minis being expensive. I'm like, you want to know how much my cosplay closet is worth? Because if this goes down in flames, I would be so upset. Um, so yeah, if you're thinking about it and you're like, I'm not sure yet, do closet cosplays. That's what they're called. Find like there's a lot of plainclothes characters. You can even modify characters to be plainclothes.
Oh, that's really smart.
And then like I do, or I'm working currently on like I have a steampunk Poison Ivy cosplay, which started out as like a leotard and a corset that I already owned. And then it kind of evolved from there. So start with closet cosplays, and then as you get more confident in your abilities, you can kind of go for the sewing and all of that. And then the other thing is just cosplay people you find fun. Like my first 4 or 5 cosplays were all Batman villains because I love Batman. I branched out from there afterwards, but I was like, I like Batman. We're gonna do Batman. So
Yeah, that's
if you
cool.
have if you have like the passion behind whatever character you're cosplaying, it definitely helps, especially when it's like 3 a.m. the day before a con, and you're like, I have 6 other things to do for this. Why am I doing this
Oh my
thing?
god. That must be a lot of stress, like prep
Cosplay's an
night.
extreme sport.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Awesome.
Extreme sport.
It's an extreme sport.
My
With a
goodness.
capital
Thank
F.
you for that. I think you just added a lot of wisdom to all of us here who is or who might be considering doing something like that. I don't know where I would start, but I definitely recognize how cool and awesome it is and how fun it must feel to show up at a con full cosplay and have everyone be like, "Oh my god, you're that person. Whoa, can I get a picture?" Like that must feel amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely like there's a point of pride too when there's always people who are like filming the con or something when they're like,
Yeah.
"Will you be in my like promotion video?" I'm in a couple of those,
Wow.
and I'll be like, I'll send links to people and be like, "I'm at this time. Look at me."
That must be really cool. Yeah. Man, thank you for that. I really appreciate your input on that.
Cool.
Samuel, my friend, you work with a lot of storytelling. Sorry, that's a funny way to say it. Plot hooks is based around narrative, collaborative storytelling, things like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is your number one tip for storytellers or like DMs who are trying to get into proper storytelling or compelling narratives? Um, what would you tell people who are getting into this?
Well, the first thing that I always give, the first piece of advice that I always give anybody is do it. Because that is the first step to anything. There's some decision paralysis at first, right? Anytime we're
Yes.
getting into any TTRPG, there's, especially with DMing or GMing, there's fear, there's trepidation as far as not wanting to actually do it because you're afraid you're going to mess up. You're not sure how you're going to tell the story. You're not sure, well, what if the players do make that inevitable 180 and go in a direction you weren't expecting? That's all just part of the learning curve. The big thing just as you get into telling stories is just get into telling stories. You're never perfect at it. You're never you don't expect to be a professional DM at your first session. Just work with your table and learn. Just go through it and learn. Once you actually get into DMing or GMing, Dungeons and Dragons is obviously the thing that I play the most, so DMing is what I default say. But
yeah,
the biggest thing that I like to point out is, you see it in the tagline for our podcast for Plot Hooks, is it's about collaboration. It's collaborative art is what role-playing games is. It is not one person trying to tell a story and then another person one-upping that person and then another person trying to one-up that, and it's not individuals trying to tell their own stories. It's people working together to tell a collaborative narrative. And as a DM, when you're trying to get into that, what you have to realize is that you are not the storyteller. You are the steward of the story. You are in charge of guiding the story along and providing elements to boost the story and to allow your players to tell the narrative collaboratively themselves. You're, again, the steward of it, but you aren't the author of the story. A lot of times whenever we start out in DMing or GMing, we over control the narrative as DMs. I know I did when I was first starting out. You either just full on railroading your players or in some other way, shape, or form, you over control the narrative, and it becomes, for lack of a better term, it becomes your players sitting there watching you tell a story, and then they get to react at certain points, but it's not collaborative. It's you actually doing it. So the short answer of that long-winded answer is, first of all, just do it. You'll get better. Don't worry, you won't suck. It's great. Just keep at it, and it's fantastically rewarding. And two, just understand the collaborative nature of it. The fact that it is people working together. Understand the importance of communication and just work together to tell the best story that you can. And whether you're a player, don't try to one up anybody, and if you're a DM, just steward the story well. Just it's all about that collaboration.
That's really, really interesting way you put it. I can't remember if we were actually live at the time, but I said that I really like DMing philosophy types of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I've never considered that as, I mean, it's obvious when you consider it in a way, but so many times when you start out, you're okay, I have to be the author of this story, I have to make sure it stays on track, I have to do this, do that. Whereas really, if you want to, properly collaborate on a narrative, you should be the steward of the story and let your players tell it and let it develop as it will organically, and it will probably be better.
Yeah. And I think
Man,
there's
I
some
really,
fear with
really like
that.
that.
Yeah, I think there's some fear with that because, and it may, at least with me, it goes back to the doubt of what will happen if the narrative goes a place you don't expect. And so
Yeah,
you
you're
want to force it into a box because you're afraid of what will happen if it goes outside of that box.
you're
But
submitting your own power
yeah,
over to the players to
yeah,
well, I mean, on one side of the spectrum you have fully railroading a campaign, which I think everyone has or could agree that it cannot be the most fun to play in. But on the other hand, can you be too loose?
absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
I
Where
think
is that like perfect balance or the middle ground that works best for collaboration storytelling?
I think it depends. The short answer is it depends because it depends on the group and the party. And I
Sure.
think as a DM, knowing your players, again, it all comes back to communication and in
Okay.
talking with your players and understanding them and what makes them tick as role players, what types of interactions and what they feel comfortable with. And what they enjoy in terms of actually their collaborative art and what they like to bring to the table. If it's hard because if you gosh, how to put this, um if you just take um if you just take your classic party where you maybe have a couple of newer players, a couple of more seasoned players, and you throw them into the mix, there's going to be different parts of that spectrum, right? There's going to be different ways that each individual likes to tell that collaborative narrative. And you, as the DM, have to figure out a way to actually balance that. So, as you're stewarding the story, you're giving each character what they need in order to add. And that varies, again, based on your party as a whole and even based on each individual character because you need to invest in each character what they need in order to be able to add to the story. And if and that can be done in terms of tying their backstory into the narrative, in terms of feeding them opportunities to actually interact with different people that they would enjoy to interact with in game. And you can subtly lead them down certain paths without full on there is one path to go. You see something in the distance. Oh, what's to this side? Oh, there's nothing over there. What's to the east? The sun. There's and you only provide them with one path. You
Right.
can subtly lead them in different directions by understanding what makes your party and your individual players tick without full on railroading them to where it feels like there's no agency.
Right.
It's an art you learn, but it is, and it's certainly not something I have down. But you end up where you want them to feel like they have all the choices when in fact they have most of the choices. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's perhaps a little bit of misdirection behind the scenes, but it's all I don't know, it's all under the veil of better storytelling, let's say.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, it is much more collaborative when you do it that way, though. I mean, man, I can really appreciate where you're coming from there.
That was fun. It's working together for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Geez, yeah, I can't like I said to you guys before we started up, I'm a little bit newer to D&D or TTRPGs in general, but it's funny to listening because I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm self-employed, so I'm my own boss, and I listen to podcasts all friggin' day, and there's no one can fire me for it. Right? But yeah, I listen to a lot of actual plays, and yeah, it's interesting to see the different GMing or DMing philosophies, and you can see where they kind of come through. Thanks for that, man. I think I learned a fair bit from you, even though we only had a short bit to talk about there. But that's you're really making me consider my next project and how I want to approach it as a DM.
Well, thank you. That's what it's all about, is working together to tell the best stories we can.
Snaps.
Well said, man. Aaron, my friend, let's move on to you. I have an interesting question for you. Well, at least I find it interesting. Maybe chat will hate it.
Yeah, we'll see.
But you said earlier on that you somehow got involved in the world of esports coverage. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I cover the LEC team called Rogue for League of Legends for a website called
Man,
The Game
that's cool.
House.
That's awesome.
And I do also some shoutcasting for some amateur organizations.
So how did you end up in that? Like, I mean, how did D&D and esports collide for you? Right? Like, I mean, obviously you're an avid League gamer, right?
Yeah,
But how did you slip into esports coverage? That is crazy.
So it happened because the thing is that with where I live is there wasn't a ton of like ways to get involved in D&D because I live in the middle of nowhere essentially.
Okay, me too, dude. Awesome.
like the city I live in goes from being about 20,000 to being about 50,000 when the college is in session. So like it's kind of difficult to really find a lot of like D&D stuff going on here unless you already know people who are into it. So about 4 years ago, like I've been playing League since like October 2013, somewhere around that time period.
Wow, okay.
And I'm one of those people who like I love talking about things, digging into things, figuring out why things happen, that type of thing, and just analyzing why do certain things happen. Like that's just kind of how my
Like
brain
doing play
works.
breakdowns and things, right?
Yeah, like that's kind of how my brain works, and I ended up catching on with a organization which I cast with for a few years, which was called Compete League back then. And I was with them through them. They actually ended up merging with a organization called Super League, which is one of the larger amateur organizations. They do a whole bunch of tournaments and stuff. They eventually absolved into that. I did not get brought over for that. And I still do a little bit on the side, but I don't do it as much because again, like my work schedule is not consistent. So it's just like, well, I have a couple days that I can make stuff work. Like Sundays are my D&D day, just like you. Like if I work Sundays, I work Sunday morning, come home right into D&D.
Right.
And then so it's just something that I've always been that I was passionate about. Because the thing is, if you guys haven't noticed, I talk way too much.
No, not at all, man. Don't be crazy. This is the whole reason we're here. Talk all you want.
so it's one of those things because I've done a couple podcasts with the website that I do writing for, and the running joke is that me and this other person that we've done the last 2 times with is that we always plan to try to have an hour show. It never happens. Like it almost always goes to 2 hours just because like the thing, like it's
an hour.
It's
too
like
short to do a show. Yeah. If you guys are passionate and you want to keep talking, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It I know the 2 scenes don't seem to be congruent, but like if you actually think about it, like a lot of the people who play those style of video games, which are like team-based video games, a lot of them also play tabletop role-playing games or that style of games because it's that mindset of working with a team to accomplish a goal.
That's perfect. Because my follow-up question for you, my friend, is what kind of crossover skills or skill sets are there between, shoutcasting or doing esports coverage and D&D? Like, surely, if you're an analytical personality type, I'm sure that there is a lot of crossover there where you can, analyze for the best build or analyze the right play. Like, how does that work?
So,
tick.
so to kind of branch off the last point, where it's a team game to reach a specific goal. Like that's kind of how D&D functions. Is that everyone has a quote unquote role within a party. Like you have your face, you have your goofball, you have all like whatever connotations you want to put to specific roles within a party. And to go back to the podcast that I'm a part of, Calbus, my character, ended up being the de facto face of the party because he was the most normal person in the party. Because to explain our party makeup is we have a Triton puppeteer, we have a wild magic halfling sorcerer who tried to kill our party once, but that's a story for another time. Because wild magic's a fun thing that I encourage no sorcerer to ever consider using for their magical background. We have a rabbit folk knight. We have my character who's a tiefling warlock who's become a paladin. And then currently we have a druid who's the third different character we've had for this person. Well, okay, so their original character wasn't the greatest concept because essentially they took Zelda from Legend of Zelda and made it into a D&D character. And then stuff happened in the story where we couldn't continue that out because of political stuff going on. Because Zelda's a princess for all that fun stuff.
Right, yeah.
So that character got scrapped. The next character ended up dying due to that wild magic stuff that we discussed earlier. Because there was a situation where he got a wild magic surge, and the number he rolled on the table that we were using was an 11, which you roll, which the DM rolls, I think it was a D12. And that's how many fireballs within a 100-foot area spawn. Like the fireball spell. And it basically almost nuked our entire party because we were all all level 3 characters at the time.
Level 3?
Yeah, we were like,
man, it
wasn't quite a TPK. We had one person die, 2 people who were at 0 or 1 HP. I only stayed up because I'm a tiefling and I have fire resistance.
Fire resistance, yeah, right.
Because he even rolled high on the damage. Like he rolled like 30 something for the damage on a like 48 max damage spell. Like it was just not a good time. But like I would have to say where like shoutcasting comes in terms of like doing, like I would say shoutcasting has the most in common with, like, to get way off track from where I was before, it has the most in common with playing stream games because you're already in the mindset of like, I'm playing you're quote unquote playing a character version of yourself almost when you're shoutcasting because you're playing your best professional version of yourself.
Right.
But you're still trying to mix in your own personality because the way I always tried to have things whenever I was doing it is it's basically a conversation between myself and my co-caster who are working together to build a narrative and build a story while talking about the game. Because that's kind of what a good shoutcasting is that you're building.
Never thought of it that way. That's really clever.
Yeah, you're essentially having a conversation. You're essentially building a story between you about the two teams participating, and like that's very similar to how you act in D&D. Only instead of it's between two teams, it's between all your party members, between your GM. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to participate in a stream actual play podcast yet, but maybe that'll change soon. Who knows? but it's definitely something that I like. It also gets you just comfortable being on camera for a long period of time, because like generally when I would be shoutcasting is literally you're shoutcasting for a minimum of 2 hours that you're on camera.
Yeah,
because
no pressure, eh?
yeah, because I mean, yes, while the game's going on, you're not quote unquote on camera, but like so you're not on the screen, but like that you have to be locked in and focused and engaged. And I feel like that's a skill that's very useful, because I understand, like I have sometimes have this issues when we do my podcast, is that because it's all remote, is that there are times where it's just like, yeah, I'm not fully locked in today, or you have a player who's like that type of thing, and it's just like, especially when you have really long sessions. Like I remember our GM was going back and editing some of our sessions. Like, we have 2 sessions that somehow we're in for 4 hours. We don't know how we got to that 4-hour point.
Yeah.
Because usually we're like 2.5 hours. Like sometimes we push, like usually 3s are most, but like there are some sessions where, and I would also say that it also gives you ways of branching out how you look at things, because in terms of esports, those games are always changing. Like, they're getting updates, they're getting new champions, new things. So like, while D&D in a way doesn't have those changes in mechanics, like the mechanics are going to say the mechanics regardless, but it's the situation of adapting to new things that are happening within the story, or surprising, or just thinking of unique ways to solve a problem. Like, I'm going to try to wrap this up quick so we can get to the last question. But
yeah, that's great, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So in our very first session, we ended up having to fight a group of like 10 or 15 gnolls. We ended up poisoning dead bodies of previous gnolls, have them eat those bodies to poison themselves. Then we waited some time for the poison to work. And then I used thaumaturgy to make sounds of battle within like a fog cloud. So they started fighting each other and kill all of each other. So we didn't actually participate in the fighting until the very, very end, when there's only like 2 or 3 of them left. So it's the fact of using your ways to solve problems that wouldn't necessarily be that easy to solve in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Aaron, thank you for that. That was really wonderful. I totally want to talk to you more about esports someday. I used to play League. Don't hate me that I don't play it anymore, but
I understand. It is
about that as well.
It is addiction.
We only have let's see, 6 minutes left, so let's take it over to, last but not least, Patrick, my friend. You DM quite a bit, eh?
Yeah.
That was very Canadian of me. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't you worry about it, entire host.
Sorry, eh? Yeah. Thanks, man. So, what kind of campaigns do you run? Lots, apparently.
Well, recently, because of kids, not as much. So it has to be mostly one-shots or stuff that I can generate. I've actually been tricking my... I work inside a hospital. And,
do you?
Yes, and I happen to be a graphic facilitator there. So I get to do a lot of creative stuff.
Oh, that's so cool.
As a team building, I have started using it as a problem-solving mechanism inside with 5 to 10 minute sessions with people. So it's inside of an innovation lab that I work there. So they're always looking for different problem-solving situations. So I run 10-minute campaigns with people. I'll have them hold up a sticky note and tell them to draw a character on it. And then they have to play it with the dice that I provide. And we'll just run through instantaneous sessions. And generally, they're just to help me teach problem solving. So it's like breaking down the mechanic to the smallest iota. And actually, to go back to storytelling, it's all kind of built around the yes and mechanic of improv. Like we're
Right,
really
yeah.
big about people failing quickly and just trying things. So the last one I used was actually to have people run into a room where it looked like there was cultist chanting actually happening, and there was a large egg at the far end that these people looked like they were praying to, and they had the choice of what to do. And for the most of them, they ran forward trying to prevent it. One person decided to try to be a vampire and kill everyone else in the room, and
As they
then
do.
someone actually succeeded breaking the egg open, which was a gold dragon inside of it. And it turned out that the cult leaders that actually just were speaking another language. So appearances are deceiving. And it got their heads cooking for a good couple days. So, but
Man,
I can't run
that's wild.
campaigns the way I used to in college, man.
Okay, so what was your favorite campaign you ever ran?
I called it Wagons North. It was
Okay.
actually because it was inside of a comic shop. I actually had people running in and out all the time, week to week. So there was a running caravan going north, and there was just different adventures along the way that they would just stream off to. Kind of one part Incredible Hulk, where moving from town to town, and another part where they'd have these reprising characters. If there was a goblin sharpshooter who just rolled really well and just happened to really infuriate everybody. So instead of having him stick it out, I had him just put up both guns and the final salute and run away. And he would just show up and did adventure after adventure afterwards just to take a single shot at people, just to piss them off, give them the finger, and then run away again. That gave them so much drive. I couldn't build a character better than that guy. They wanted him dead so badly. So basically, just to yes and on everybody else here, the best characters are not the ones I ever come up with. It's the ones that they make for me. It's kind of infuriating, but it's what happens.
Man. Any advice for people who want to go out and DM or like be creative like you were with doing little things here or there and just kind of incorporating in some of the
You're not
what's the
going to
right
be
word for that?
ready. You're never going to be ready for it. You can prepare all you want, and then the players are going to do whatever they want. And you,
Yeah.
if you really want to have a good time at it, you're just going to do it. And you're going to get forced into it uncomfortably. And it's going to be the best experience you're ever going to have. My first game, the DM didn't show up, and I just offered to play. And all the characters were level 20 second edition characters. And they took advantage of me so badly. They
Oh,
sat
no.
there spanking Bahamut in front of me with their paladins. They should not have been able to do it, but I let it happen. And I gave them all the experience points. And then the DM came back and said, "What the hell did you do to my campaign?" But what are you gonna do?
Oh,
It's
no.
just a
Well,
game,
yeah,
right?
what are you gonna do, man? You dive in, yeah, head first, make it happen. On those lovely notes, unfortunately, our time here at the tavern shall soon come to a close. It's just about closing time, so we're all gonna pitch in and sing closing time together now. I hope you guys are all just
I
kidding.
didn't warm up vocally.
Thank you. Someone pitched in, and I appreciate you. But to you folks here on the cast tonight, and to everyone in the community, thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing your experiences and sharing your questions. If you posted a question in chat and I didn't get to it, I'm very sorry.
Sorry.
There's always next time. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I said sorry. Sorry.
Sorry, so we'll now go around the room. We'll be a little quicker this time, perhaps, because we are well, you know what? The first time running the show, and I'm already running it late. So let's go around the room. Tell folks who you are, where they can find you, and if you want to promote any projects, please feel free, share with our audience. So we will start up in the top with Anna.
Hi guys, I'm Anna, also known as Sanctumcosplays. Feel free to follow me on Twitter if you want to see my cosplays like I shared with these guys in our chat. Follow my Instagram. Not really as populated as it should be because it's con season, but it's COVID season as well. And then you can follow me on Nerd League Gaming on Twitch and Nerd League Gamer on Twitter, which is where I stream. I stream as a character on Thursdays and Saturdays in Dungeons and Dragons and then Monster Hearts. And then starting on the 28th, I will have my own show, Masks: A New Generation. So that'll be fun.
On the 28th, folks, mark it on your calendars. Be there
5
or be
p.m.
square. 5 p.m. What time zone?
Eastern.
5 p.m. Eastern, folks. If you're not there, I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Samuel, my friend, thank you so much for being here tonight. You can give a quick outro for me.
Sure. Samuel from PlotHooks. Check out the podcast where all podcasts are found. Just this coming up, we release episodes every week on Saturdays. This coming up is about a 2-hour-long roundtable on travel in TTRPGs with people like David Tilstra, Star Shinobi, Jared from Monsters and Multiclass, Ben from Lawful Great Adventures. Lots of awesome people just pitched in for that roundtable.
Awesome.
You can find us on social media at PlotHooks, and again, podcast wherever you can find podcasts.
PlotHooks, folks, you're not going to want to miss it. Go find it and listen to our good boy Samuel.
I'm sold.
I am too. I'm actually going to find you and subscribe to you as soon as we're done here. I'm taking my phone out right now so I can do it. Moving on to the man, the myth, the legend, Aaron Primus. Tell people where we can find you.
I am Aaron, also known as CL Primus on Twitter. You can find me at the chaoticneutrals.podbean.com podcast. That is chaotic with a K, not a C. Don't ask me why. That's just how it is. On that, I play Calbus. You can also follow the podcast at Chaotic Neutral on Twitter as well. We're just a bunch of random people who decide, hey, why not try this D&D thing?
Sometimes those are the best ones, right? No one's trying too hard. It's just a bunch of friends hanging out, having a great time.
Yeah.
It's Chaotic Neutral, but with a K.
Yes.
Find him there, folks. Go subscribe now. Shadow, my man.
I can remember what it was. The ShadowDM one.
Who am I?
Yeah, who am I? Who am I? Where am I?
Where can we find you?
The ShadowDM one on Twitter. The Shadow Master DM on Twitch. I promise I will try and get some more stuff out there for you to actually watch. Thank you for having me here, and I love everybody in this community. You
Absolutely,
guys,
man.
rock.
I'm so glad you came in tonight. If there's any mods in chat still, if we can get a shout out for his channel, that'd be fantastic. You said it was the Shadow DM on Twitch?
Shadow Master DM on
Shadow
Twitch.
Master DM. I'm so sorry about that. Shadow Master DM on
Shadow,
Twitch.
Shadow_Master DM.
Someone do a shout out. If not, you all know how to type it into the URL.
Yeah.
Go find him and follow him. Catch him next time he's live and remind him that you saw him here. All right, moving on. Patrick, my boy.
Also known as my handle of Tolemach or Tolemach or Tolemach.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it wrong again. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry there, Jose.
I won't fuck that up.
Is it? Oh,
Where
you
can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram under Tolemach if you want. There's a bunch of my art. I'm really not in this for the follows. I'm really here just to be passionate and enthusiastic. If you want someone to join in and be a guest on your thing, shout me out. Otherwise, I'm just going to be following most of your podcasts that most of you are here listening and talking to, and I'll be drawing fan art for you. This is a great community and just happy to be part of it. Thanks, guys.
That's amazing. So I am not Gamer Mom Luna. I'm Scott, YottsTwitch. And with that, we're going to hit the outro. And Mike, I'm not sure if you have anyone who you'd like to raid, but feel free. Not yet, he says.
Hey, my name is Mike. I'm the disembodied voice in the background right now. You can think of me as a patron, I guess.
Daddy?
All your wishes have been granted. Just
Sweet.
Oh, wonderful.
when you log off, you'll be good to go. Hey, everybody, my name's Mike, and this is the Highway Nerd channel. We do TTRPG content here 4 days a week. On Sunday nights, we have Tabletop Tavern 1. On Monday nights, we have Neural Nexus 0, which is our 1980s retro wave cyberpunk Savage World adventure set in Boston. On Wednesdays, we have our second fantasy game on the channel, Tabletop Tavern 2, High Fantasy. And on Thursdays, of course, we have Tales from the Tavern. We had to step down with the quality of our host this week, but we made do. We made do.
It's true.
I'm
So sad.
Our guest cast made up for his ability, so
That's right. The cast really brought it tonight.
Whatever, you were awesome, dude.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are-
and Tan AF, man. You look at you, man. You are
Dude, I'm
Greek
outside.
god,
Oh,
Greek Canadian
10,
god
12-hour
right there.
days. It's crazy. You can see if I pull back my hairline, this is this color of my skin.
That's a
But
native
yeah,
Canada.
I'm getting a lot of sun lately.
Yeah. We also have a stream team dedicated to people who produce TTRPG content called the Storytellers Union. So if that's up your alley and you're looking for support in that regards, we're all tides rides together. So we really have worked with some amazing people so far, and we look forward to meeting more people. That's one of the best things about this show is casting that net, meeting people from so many different communities. So to the guest cast, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with tonight. And I think in honor of Luck Duck being here, we're gonna go raid Nerd League Gaming. There we go.
Oh, we're gonna raid my
Yes.
boys.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm hoping they come back from a break in the second here, but if not,
They
we'll still...
should be back. I can yell at them. You want me to yell at them?
Yeah, yell at
I
him.
got you. Hold on. Give me 30 seconds. I'll yell at them.
Oh, it's so good. To
And then-
everyone out here in chat, thank you so much for being here and not making this
thank you.
nearly as awkward as I feared it might be.
Well, I mean, it was awkward. I got reports. So
Well,
it was super
obviously
awkward.
pretty awkward.
Yeah.
Marginally less awkward.
That's all I could have ever asked for.
Reasonable level of awkwardness.
That's
I
that's
get
to
so
be
I get
expected,
one last parting question while Look Duck reach out to the crew. What do you guys think of the new Icewind Dale stuff coming out for 5e?
Looks sweet.
I had the pleasure of going up in the town next to Bobby Salvatore, and a friend of mine actually was the DM for the Drizzt campaign and used to constantly kill him just to mess with Bobby Salvatore. So so I'm really excited for this campaign coming out. It's pretty fun. We good to go over there?
They're not answering me, but my guess is based on the time they normally get, they'll be off break in the next minute or two.
All right. Well, let's go show them some love anyway. Let's do this.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to start this raid. And guys, thank you as always for supporting the Highway Nerd community and coming out and hanging out with us and having fun. You guys are welcome back anytime. We love all you guys out there. And we look forward to seeing you Sunday night for Tabletop Tavern. When you get over to Nerd League Gaming, if you enjoy their content, follow them, show them some love, let them know where you're coming from. Drop those rad emotes, drop those nice shots, and guys, be safe
And they're
out
back, so we're good.
there. All right, be safe out there. Take care of your friends and family. Love you all, and have a great night.